will join us in time for the presentation. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome again to another meeting, another board meeting. It's great to see all of you. It is now 6:37. So we will call this meeting to order. And for those who weren't here when I mentioned Alfredo will not be joining us, nor Denitza. Sid is here. He mentioned he was going to be late, but he's on time. Perfect. Thank you, Sid. So the only two so far are Chris and Ralph that are not present. Okay.
And Denitza, you said Denitza's not coming?
Denitza is not coming. She can't make it today. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's see. Call to order, and let's do a roll call while we're waiting for Brian too. I think someone just logged on. It's Mr. Allen. Okay, excellent.
Also have Ralph Croy in the.
Ralph is on the panelist attendees. Yeah, let me move him over.
Oh, he's here. Oh, wonderful.
Okay, so Ralph is here. Excellent. All right. Great. Okay, everyone. So I'm going to take roll. Karen Waters.
Present.
Brian Allen.
Finally here.
Alfredo Castillo is absent. Chris Coyle is absent. Graham Zach.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Sid Gold.
Here, but no camera. I don't know why it won't work. So.
Okay. Michael Greenwald.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Thomas Hartfield.
Present.
Raheem Kazi.
I'm here.
Thank you, sir. Ralph Croy is absent. Nathan Lee.
No.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Jason Lester.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Sitlali Manso.
Here.
Thank you. Robert Moore.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Denisa Pantoja is absent. Alvin Waters.
Here.
Thank you, sir. All right. And
I'm
Oscar
here.
Here. Oh, Ralph, I'm sorry, you are here. Ralph Croy. You just said so.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right. So 3 absent. That means we
Camera
should
doesn't work. I don't know why not.
14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's on, but it's not.
Yeah, so 14.
No.
Okay. All
I
right.
can see them. They can't see me. It's okay.
Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will have Miss Maddox start it for us, if you could. Let me see. I'm going to try my best to hold this.
Is
that right? There we go.
That looks good, Oscar. Up a little bit.
Okay. Miss Maddox, can you get us started?
I pledge allegiance.
Let's see. Unmute.
Capri, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I would rather have a, Madam Clerk. Yes, I'm actually having, I'm trying to get things sorted with my internet, but I definitely would like, because I'm jumping in and out. I may have to actually move a seat, but I just want to see how my internet's going right now. Can we have the
Gibson.
honor to have the president or the vice president do it for us?
We'll have Mr. Nyambura do it for us. How's that, Gibson?
Yes, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead, everybody. Let me just mic up properly. Hi, everybody. Let's just unmute ourselves and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America
States of America.
And to
to the
To the republic
for which it stands, one nation under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Okay, and we'll move on to comments from CD12, LAPD, senior lead officers, etc. Let's see, I see. Gibson, you are the only one that falls under that for now. So you've got the floor, my friend.
Thank you, good sir. Mr. President, members of the board, great to see everybody. Great to see Ms. Maddox. Hope everybody's having a good evening today. As some of, hopefully everybody knows who I am, but for some members of the public, my name is Gibson Nyambura. I am I'm the neighborhood empowerment advocate for Granada Hills North, and I just want to touch base with everybody. As you may know, we'll be sending out the monthly profile, so be on the lookout for that. There'll be several events that are scheduled on that'll be on tomorrow in this in this newsletter. We'll be highlighting a couple of things. We are definitely still doing the neighborhood council core institute, which is the onboarding process that we are implementing for onboarding neighborhood council board members. For a lot of you new board members who want to sort of understand more about the neighborhood council system, please sign up. Please definitely sign up and get the training. Just kind of get comfortable with the neighborhood council process. It gives us the ability for folks to just understand the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners policies and sort of all the additional policies as well. Just want to make sure that everybody is also following what the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners' state actions are taken upon. The blank was canceled today, but it's something that I definitely know has been discussed by some neighborhood council board members as regards to the social media policy. And also coming down the pipeline will be the code of conduct. The department is working on the revision with the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners on updates to the code of conduct. And I would definitely want this board to take action, just kind of discuss it, provide either input in terms of supporting it, in opposition of it, but your input is definitely important to the participation within the neighborhood council process. We've also sent out emails to board members informing them that they have not completed their training. So one or two of you, I will keep bugging you because there's a problem within the system to where we need you, for returning board members, you need to click renew in the Cornerstone platform. So we want everybody to complete their trainings. It's something that the department is emphasizing on, making sure that everybody's trained up. But if any board members have any issues when it comes to policies or any issues about the neighborhood council system, you have my email. So my name is based off of what's on my, I don't know if it's on the top right corner for you, but it's on the top left corner actually. It's gibson.nyambura@lacd.org. And my direct line is 818-374-9953. Again, it's gibson.nyambura@lacd.org. And the phone number is 818-374-9953. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Gibson. Thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone else. Glenn, I see Glenn is on here. Glenn, did you have anything that you'd like to share with us from other agencies? Brian, I'll come back to you in a moment.
I can give a few Neighborhood Council Alliance updates if you'd like to have that now.
That would be good. Thank you.
Okay, so Glenn Bailey, I acknowledge that Brian Allen does attend the VANC meetings and likely will give you a report on the last meeting. But I did want to give you a heads up that the new general manager of the Department of Animal Services will be the guest speaker at this month's meeting, which will be a week from this Thursday. So that will be interesting because Animal Services over the past several years has had a lot of stakeholder engagement. So, you know, how the new general manager may do things differently may be of great interest. Secondly, I did want to note just a couple things that are Neighborhood Council Alliance related on your agenda. LANC, the acronym is LANCC, there's 2 C's. And if your item regarding memorandum of understanding is regarding the DWP one, that's the NC/DWP memorandum of understanding. But if it's a different one, then disregard that comment. Let's see. The West Valley Neighborhood Alliance on Homelessness. Still, you know, we're got the 16 neighborhood councils west of the 405, and the group meets the 4th Sunday of the month at 4 p.m. For general meetings with usually several guest speakers focused in on the issue of homelessness. So just want to make sure everyone knows that they're open and invited to that. Brian will talk about budget advocates. So I probably used up my 2 minutes. So thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see. So Brian, you had your hand up. Go ahead. You've got the floor.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Gibson, could you give everybody the link to go review the proposed amendment to Code of Conduct? Because since it is available, they should be able to review it anytime they want.
Most definitely, I'll provide it to this board, Mr. Allen. I also just wanted, since I have this opportunity for a second, I also forgot to mention about Civic U. Definitely want to remind board members that the department is offering Civic U. It's going to be 90-minute sessions. As we had mentioned in the email, that was a notification that went out to everybody. We're asking board members to identify board members who will go and appoint them. We are trying to help avoid any serious communication issues. And it will be, the first one is definitely gonna be held on September 9th. So if this board wants to take action and appoint 3 or 4 board members who can attend, Civic U would be amazing. We want more board members to participate. We are singing the song, and I'll make sure it's in an email as well.
Thank you. Let's see, attendees, I have some hands raised. I believe, Mr. Soto, you had your hand up first, so please, you've got the floor.
Hey there, good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Soto. I'm with the U.S. Census Bureau here in Los Angeles. Just wanted to invite those who are interested in a redistricting webinar we're having on Thursday. I'll forward that information and invitation if the contacts are updated in the Empowerment LA. Also would like to request just a 5-10 minute time on your next meeting just to go over some 2020 census results.
That would be great if you can just email the board at GHNNC with that request, and we'll take it from there.
One more time, it was board at
GHNNC.org.
GHNNC.org. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Miss Michaels, Heather Michaels.
Yes, hi, good to see everybody. Just wanted to say hello and thank you to Karen for inviting me. Just quickly wanted to remind folks about the Congress coming up. I'm the co-chair for Outreach, and we are very excited that Mr. Maddox will be joining us this year. September 25th, just to hold on to the date, you guys, is the Neighborhood Council System's biggest event of the year. It's going to be online again this year. And this empowering event, of course, brings over 1,000 neighborhood council leaders together, elected officials and staff from every city department for a day of networking, education, and empowerment virtually this year at LA City Hall. So I'm going to send you guys some copies so that hopefully you can get this into your newsletter. And we are very excited and looking forward to Ms. Maddox and many other special guests joining us this year. Thank you so much for giving me a moment to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, and Miss Gonzalez.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Evening, everyone. I'm Alessandra Gonzalez, a community outreach coordinator for One Generation, here to provide LADWP resources to residents and commercial clients for District 12, to provide more financial assistance and raise more awareness on water and power rebate programs. I just wanted to share upcoming webinars for August. There'll be one this Thursday, August 10th from 2 to 3 and 6 to 7, covering a fun competitive energy challenge to help residents cut on their utility bills, and those who participate will receive a reward. On Thursday, August 12th from 2 to 3, we'll cover a turf replacement rebate for those looking into redesigning their lawns to a more sustainable alternative. Thank you again for your time. Feel free to reach out to me at agonzalez@onegeneration.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Okay, let's see, I think there's no more. So I am going to still open it up. I believe those were public comments, which would be item C. but I will still ask, are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, I see. Is that Mr. and Mrs. Hales?
Yes, sir. Very good.
Thank you. So you've got the floor.
And 2 minutes. All right, here we go. All right, my wife and I have been now to 84 Zoom meetings across Los Angeles, all in the search for the Holy Grail. Periodically, we do find little gems and we try to share with everybody. On the 7th of last month, the Palms Neighborhood Council had a meeting in which there was a presentation made to them on the LA Council file number 12-0460-S4. It's 700 to 900 pages. In process, it is the changes and modifications to the process and procedures that the particular program handles when you have your projects, et cetera, across there, you share with downtown, give your CIS to a particular project, et cetera. Well, at this point right now, they're still about to vote this through. What it does is it reduces or eliminates your interaction with downtown in regards to certain projects that they have on the system. In other words, neighborhood councils will be removed from the process. They won't ask any further for CISs or letters of acceptance or approval because they're going to basically lock you out. So I highly recommend, I'll read it one more time before I close out. That is council file number 12-0460-S as in Sam 4, 700 to 900 pages. If you're on the Plum Committee, this is all about zoning and acceptance. So I highly recommend you pull it down and a couple people look it over because that may mean you don't have any input anymore. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Mr. Hales. Much appreciated. Okay. That is it for that. Okay, let's move on. President comments, I have none. Executive committee. First item is E1, A through E. Hopefully you all received the meeting minutes. They were sent to you, I believe, 4 days ago. So I will open it up. Anyone have any questions on any of these meetings? Agendas. Karen.
Yes, Oscar, I had a question. If we could maybe switch 1 and 2 and have Ms. Maddox present and then move on with the rest of those.
I was just hoping that we could just approve these right away.
I mean, I make a motion to approve.
Okay. Is there any second on that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll just go ahead and move it forward. Everyone's okay with that? Okay. Mr. Foote, you have your hand up?
Hey, yes, I'm here staffing for Miss Maddox. I just wanted to know if it was possible to enable the chat for me when she starts, so that I can put some hyperlinks in there to supplement what she's saying.
That's a good question. I don't know.
You know,
Let me see if I can
Lonnie,
do this. Hold on.
I don't know if we're allowed to
Okay.
do that in the meeting.
Yeah, I believe it's disabled for that reason.
In
Okay.
this meeting, it's a public record.
It's a
The city
public-
attorney might
Got it.
have blocked chat for this, but thank you. We will just, I'll just defer to you and have you call it out at the end. How about that?
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Okay, so we will move
Can I
forward with,
just say this is, I just wanted to shout out Lonnie Foote is helping us as a law student from Pepperdine School of Law, my beloved alma mater, and we're very grateful for his service.
excellent. Welcome, Lonnie. Okay, so Ms. Maddox, I'm assuming you want control, so I will make you, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make you co-host. That way you have control. And welcome. It's great to have you. So I believe now you've got it. You should be able to control it. Thank you.
All right. I just am so excited to be here with our neighborhood councils. I am, super, I feel connected to our neighborhood councils in so many ways. And I'm looking forward, as Heather said, to joining you all at your neighborhood council congress. I think it's really important to know that I've been there for many years. And some of you, like Glenn Bailey, remember when I served as general counsel to neighborhood councils. So I feel, right at home, and I kind of feel alive when I'm around you all. And Gibson from Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. It is so great to be here with you as well, and appreciate all the work that you do for neighborhood councils year round. I already acknowledged our very own Lonnie, and appreciative for people leaning in and volunteering and making a difference. And quite frankly, the city could not do what it does without our neighborhood councils. And I was particularly inspired by the comments from Mr. Hales. By just, saying, I've looked at all these meetings, and this is, a heads up to everyone, because that's what it takes. We cannot do it alone in City Hall. And quite frankly, we shouldn't do it all alone, particularly in these, for such a time as this. If you all can't hear me, or if I break up, it's fine. I've already moved things out of the way here so I can scoot over and get a better reception, or I will turn off my camera and continue to speak. So if you're having trouble hearing me, just jump in and let me know, and I'll make some adjustments. But I really wanted to thank, the board president, Oscar Jimenez, for, hosting this event, definitely Karen Waters for inviting me, and the entire Granada Hills Neighborhood Council for your service to the community. Of course, many of you know, my name is Capri Maddox. I'm the executive director of the LA Civil Rights and Civil Human Rights and Equity Department. We call ourselves LA Civil Rights for short. You should know that the department was created by Mayor Garcetti and the council to address discrimination in commerce, education, employment, and housing, as well as addressing issues as it relates to equity and empowerment. I've been lucky to serve in a number of capacities, and I would change that. I'm blessed to serve in many capacities. As president of the Board of Public Works, as director of LAUSD partnerships, and as a neighborhood prosecutor with the city attorney's office. And I did other assignments in the city attorney's office, but I know our neighborhood councils interact with our neighborhood prosecutors. And I had a wonderful experience with the neighborhood councils that serve the LAPD area of the Wilshire Community Police Station. And so, I've worked with the neighborhood councils many times in my career, as you can guess from, those varied assignments. But before I move forward, it's like, why does LA need a civil rights department? And, I was born and raised for the most part in LA. I've worked for the city off and on since 1992. And just to think that at this stage of my career, we would basically be starting a civil rights department, but the facts pretty much tell a different story. LA ranks 7 out of 150 cities in the United States for inequality. And that's according to a USC study done right here in our backyard. And by the way, shout out to any Trojans that are on the call. USC sent me now I only have 3 interns that were paid by the university sent to me for the entire year. But, you know, just thinking about the inequalities that were revealed in the USC study, just, you know, heartbreaking to know that our numbers are so low compared to 150 other cities. LA has the largest homeless population in the nation, and many of you know that, with African Americans comprising about 40% of those experiencing homelessness, despite only about 9.7%, despite only being 9.7% of the LA County population. And then, of course, LA experienced massive inequalities as it relates and inequities as it relates to the COVID-19 crisis, which, quite frankly, when we scheduled this meeting, I thought, you know, we would be a little bit past the COVID-19 crisis, but we're still dealing with it with the Delta variant, and I definitely would advise everyone to be as careful as possible in these days. Latinos are more than, I think it's 6 times as likely to die from COVID-19 as non-Hispanic whites, according to UCLA study. Job loss was disproportionately shouldered by women of color. And even with protections and supportive services, evictions and housing crisis are going to continue for some of the most marginalized in our area. And just, you know, surrounding all these problems is equity. With that, you know, I think it's, you know, good for me if I'm allowed to share my screen to just talk a little bit more about like what our department is doing and what we've done since I saw you all a few months ago. It's important to know that as we move forward, our department is still moving forward with commission support to the Commission on Civil Rights, which handles our, I'm gonna plus this out guys a little bit, which handles our discrimination enforcement as it relates to commerce, education, employment, housing. So that's like the enforcement arm. We have the Commission on the Status of Women that deals with gender equity issues. Definitely the Human Relations Commission that deals with hate crime prevention and racial harmony. And they do a lot of community policing work with LAPD. And I think it's also important to know that they house the Transgender Advisory Council. And since we met, and probably since we created this deck last, we actually have the reparations committee that has been housed in our department. It was created by Mayor Garcetti's latest equity budget, and it has now been placed and housed in our department. Of course, I spoke about discrimination enforcement already. This is managed by the Civil Rights Commission, but we address discrimination in the private sector as it relates to commerce, education, employment, and housing. And then when we think about our community engagement and outreach, we have faith-based unity events. Really want to be sure that we support all faiths in Los Angeles and definitely work on our discrimination and bias awareness training. That is something that we've been talking to the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment about, making sure that we are able to, you know, stand up to provide resources for our neighborhood councils. And then I think it's important to know under equity and empowerment, which is one of my favorite places of spots in the department, is to look at things through the policy equity lens, like the mayor's budget, or having an opportunity to think about like our response to the COVID-19 crisis, the digital divide, or as it relates to how we deal with food deserts in our city. When we look at upward mobility programming, that's super important to me, just to create pathways for people to get into the middle class and beyond. I stole that from one of our other universities here in the Los Angeles area, my beloved alma mater, where I received my bachelor's and master's degree from Cal State LA. They are #1 in upward mobility in the nation, meaning taking students from the lower income fields all the way up to higher levels and some of the highest levels. And I should just basically say the largest improvement in financial stability as it relates to, as compared to any other university in the country. And so I stole the idea of upward mobility programming. Dad, can you open the door for your son? You ask your son to walk the dog, and then you have to let him back in when he comes back home. But upward mobility programming is something that we're excited about creating, and this is helping people learn about college and career readiness, financial literacy, home ownership, and it's been just a joy to be a part of home ownership forums, platforms where people go to these Saturday morning meetings, and by Monday morning they're telling you, hey, I'm pre-qualified, and now I have people to concierge to kind of help me, volunteers, of course, to help them through the home buying experience, and definitely helping to. Our goal is to also train on people how to be entrepreneurs. So we'll definitely need some of our small business owners that are interested in helping us stand that arm up. We would really appreciate it. And other things that you should know about is we have corporate diversity metrics that we're looking at. We have a small group of companies like Universal Music, Ernst & Young, Morgan Stanley, and a few others that are helping us to move forward as we look at creating more equity in the hiring, promotion, and procurement opportunities for the African American and Latino workforce and communities. I think it's really important that I wanted to drill down on those areas, but I wanted to let you know some of the accomplishments we've done since I saw you last. We actually were awarded a Fuse Equity Fellow. This is about $150,000 benefit to us. And this person is pretty much donated to us to help us on our equity work. And we've also been tasked with having the Office of Racial Equity, as well as looking at the repair program, and some of you may hear about it soon. It's basically, and it's really important for our neighborhood councils to hear about this. It's, in our equity lane, but I wanted to tell you that if you participated or you're familiar with the budget advocate format of the neighborhood councils, we will have a participatory budget process where $10 million was set aside by Mayor Garcetti and the city council to provide resources to community-based organizations that are doing work in Los Angeles. And I think it's particularly important to know that our neighborhood councils will be pulled in to assist with the voting process and making sure that we help with, and the neighborhood empowerment staff will be helping us with outreach as well. So I'm just letting you know that's something that you'll hear about. So if for short, we call it PB, but it stands for the participatory budget process. And that will be something that you'll be hearing about more in the next few months. And we're hoping to get dollars on the street by, early, well, I'd say by spring of 2022, depending on how fast we can get things to move through council, the RFQ process, et cetera. Another thing that you should know, a benefit to our department, is we have a public rights project fellow that will be coming from New York, actually, to assist us. We found a district attorney from New York that is interested in transitioning to help us with our civil rights work as it relates to enforcement for the private sector and commerce, education, employment, and housing. And this person will be on loan to us for 2 years. We will be paying part of the salary, but it is a public rights project fellow, and we are super excited. Someone with LA roots, went to NYU for law school and stayed in the New York area, but is from East LA and wants to, come home and to serve. Wanted to also let you know that our discrimination enforcement arm is in progress. We actually were funded positions for those slots. We will have 5 investigators and an assistant general manager that will handle our legal issues for us. But those positions were held back until January of 2022. We didn't get a full year of funding from July to July. And another thing that I'm super excited about, and you should be too, is that we have office space that will be dedicated sometime in September. I am standing in the office space, and you can see I'm getting around on a knee stroller. I've hurt my foot, and so but I was there with, and if you can also see, you can see Dr. Jerry from Kedron Community Health Center that was present with us as we did the walkthrough with the men and women of the Bureau of Engineering, the General Services Department, as well as ITA, our Information Technology Agency. These are names of our commissioners, like you, public servants that really lean in at no cost to the city, but really deliver in a substantial way. And I'll make sure you get a copy of this so you can see the names of our commissioners. We have not added the names of the reparations committee to this list. But I definitely want you to know that, as you can see, we've been going around the city to talk to a number of community groups to get a sense of what the needs are, how we can help with, as it relates to meeting with our Jewish community, the Jewish Federation, Homeboy Industries, Community Build, Crystal Stairs. You may even see in October, I met with your very own, this body in October of 2020, along with the Islamic Center of Southern California, Jack and Jill, the Lakers, just talking to everyone, USC Agents of Change, and of course, our very own bank. And I think it's important to know that as we, the Valley Alliance for Neighborhood Councils. And I think it's really important to know that a lot of these meetings lead to partnerships, or if I meet with USC, or if I meet with the Fuse Corporation, of course, we were able to get a fellow from there. It's important to know that meeting with folks at Pepperdine. And one thing I really wanted to shout out my beloved alma mater for as well, in addition to Lonnie helping us, Pepperdine has gifted us a gift of about $300,000 in resources for the mediation program. So Pepperdine School of Law, which has one of the #1 mediation programs in the entire country, will be doing our mediation for us at no cost to our department for our first year of operations. And as I look at other meetings that we've had, you can see, and at some times we were having a lot more meetings with the API community, Asian Pacific Islander community, as hate crimes went up against folks from that community. Of course, you see the Public Rights Project meeting, which led to a partnership of them sending us an attorney at very low cost for our department, all the way to going to the Valley Pride event. We had representation at that event that happened in the Valley, and we also had the LA for All Youth Jam, reaching out to our young people. We also had like tomorrow, for example, I'll be meeting with LA 84 to talk about play equity and efforts for our young folks, and of course, meetings with LAPD. So it's really important to know that we are out in the community and we want to hear what's going on. And I can show you that we have a list of some of our events. We had a recent youth art jam, particularly to support our LGBTQ plus students, and just to have Know Your Rights bystander training with some of our commissioners, Commissioner Ghnsc from the Civil Rights Commission, and the Filipino American Bar Association, and then making sure that we meet with some of our nonprofits. You guys can see that we met, we had the executive director of Equality California, as well as Blake Chow, doing an event, definitely out in the community with some of our frontline workers as we deal with the COVID crisis. I think this photograph was taken just about a week and a half ago. Definitely a partnership with the Korean community. You can see here, we have someone highlighting our LA for All campaign, and I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. But this was the Valley Pride event that happened in June. I think it's very important to know that we have a campaign that you may have seen on sanitation vehicles, street light banners, particularly in Council District 12. And you may see it if you're in the downtown area on the convention center, as well as the LA Football Club exterior. There are signs that says LA's for all, LA's for everyone. And I think it's really important to know that, as you can see here, it says "We Belong" on the side of a sanitation vehicle. And then of course, LA is for everyone. We have two campaigns, and I want to give you a bit of clarity here. One campaign is for the API community called the Art of Belonging. And you may even see older Asian women that are seated on bus shelters. So you may see those pictures. That's part of the Art of Belonging campaign. And this is a picture, I think it's like superimposed. There's a young boy and maybe like a middle-aged man on a donut box here. And that's another piece of art that you may see. But the LA for All campaign, or LA is our home. If you see LA is for everyone, this is our home, we belong. That is a campaign for everyone to reduce hate and discrimination here in Los Angeles, to let folks know that LA is for everyone. And of course, there's information at the bottom of these signs to let you know what to do in the event of a hate crime. And you can find that on our website, civilandhumanrights.lacity.org, civilandhumanrights.lacity.org. So I'm going to scroll through the other items quickly. You can see our other community events. Definitely a day of service, cleaning up the streets of LA. More work with the COVID crisis, commemorating the civil unrest of 1992, as well as, making sure that we support our LGBTQ community, especially our trans and non-binary community, as with the community vaccination events, working with our young people on Real Talk about digital safety. We did this event with Council Member Monica Rodriguez from Council District 7. But telling young people what the do's and don'ts of life and social media. Many of us in this meeting, didn't grow up as teens and young adults with social media looking over our shoulders. And so it's just important to stand up for a number of things, stand up a number of programs. This is an event we had with LAPD as it relates to fake leaders coming out with LAPD to urge calm in the moments where we were looking at the Chauvin trial verdict to come in. And of course, the Chauvin case was tied to the George Floyd murder. And I think it's important to know that, even in thinking about that, you can see on our next slide here, policing in the Black community. A report was done about from the Human Relations Commission about, what is it like a day in a life as a police officer? What are their issues and concerns? What is it like to be an African-American male police officer, and just kind of understanding, the complexity of that space, as well as, a community member in an underserved community, but maybe over police area. And then we also look at standing up against hate, against, all communities, and even looking at reentry during pandemic to show, how there are, needs. And if we, they say if you don't, and many people don't plan to fail, but some people fail to plan. And so when the COVID crisis hit and people were being released from custody, we wanted to make sure that there was a plan for those people that were returning home. These are the protected classes for our cases. And yeah, I won't belabor you, I won't bore you guys with that, but we have stood up an opportunity for people to see exactly what our complaint process is. And you can at least see the 4 major pillars for how we go through the complaint process. And that arm will be opening up in early 2022. And then of course you can find us on social media here. I'm gonna hold this screen just for a moment. We're pretty much finished, but I wanna hold that screen so people can have an opportunity to see how to find us on social media. We're at LA Civil Rights. And again, our website is civilandhumanrights.lacity.org. And we have a department logo that is being, it'll be intellectual property of the city very soon, so don't copy it yet, guys. And I just wanted to say a special thanks to some of the institutions of higher learning that help us, as well as the Mayor's Fund Los Angeles. So, really wanted to, stop the share here, but to let you know that I sit here in this very seat for, maybe, too long for my own good. But, oftentimes till 1 in the morning, making sure that we stand up the department and kind of meet all of the needs of, the residents of our city as we can, and, work with our council offices. So I think it's, place here that I'll just yield the floor and takes Q&A. And, I know that we talked about a lot, but I really want to, talk about things that are of concern to all of you, and it really makes a difference in how we move the department forward. So, Mr. President, I'll allow you. I saw a couple hands up, so I'll
so Ms. Maddox, that was great. You've been really busy. I mean, since the last time we met, you've done a lot. You've accomplished a lot. So thank you so much. I mean, it's great to see. It's needed, especially during these times. So let's go to hands. Sid, I know you had your hand up, and go ahead. You've got the floor, my friend.
Thank you. Very impressive. I hate to say, I'm very interested in metrics, and you're doing a lot. You have a lot of data there. What is the outcome? What's your sort of grand view of what the outcome of all of your efforts that you're doing?
Great, thank you for that. And when you go to Budget and Finance Committee, those are the metrics that people look at. Is how many events have you done? How many people have you reached out to? How many folks have you served? And as a matter of fact, because I have all of my work, my husband hates this, I just kind of have all the work right here. I happen to have a recent letter about our first year of service, and the metrics that we look at is one, how many community groups we engage with. As you can see, we have a list, and how many people touch with the message of what we're doing, and of course, were we able to get a major campaign launched, like the LA for All campaign that I'm actually in discussions with the folks at the Dodgers to see if they would put our new campaign on the side of some of their assets, and just to see how far reaching. I think we have our LA for All campaign in 4,000 locations, including metro trains, metro buses, DOT buses, street banners in council districts 4, 12, and 10. And then to also look that we are 99.1% complete on our office space. We in the LA for All campaign, by the way, is also in all all terminals in LA in LAX. We also are on 250 sanitation vehicles, 50 street lighting banners, 70 rec and park facilities, the convention center, LAFC, Bank of California Stadium, as well as shared assets across social media and newsletters. And the campaign is done in 12 languages. And now we are going to add Hebrew and two other languages for African immigrants. We're in the process of selecting, which language we would use, but we definitely launched the No Place for Hate series with a number of events. I think to date we've done about 4 or 5 of those events. We have started the metrics for the program. We have people have 5 years to improve the number of hires and promotions for African American and Latino workers. So we have a baseline number, and those numbers come out on a regular basis. We have a number of volunteers and assets. We basically have over $500,000. I think it's something like maybe $700,000 in assets donated to our department. When I talk about Pepperdine and the Fuse Corps and the Public Rights Project, et cetera. So, we have metrics in a number of ways, and what we want to see is we've done a baseline for this last year of what hate crime numbers are like in LA. And the numbers went up tremendously. I mean, like 55% for all groups in the last 5 years is a lot, but we're want to make a march to making sure those numbers go down. And of course, when our discrimination enforcement arm opens up, we will be able to tally. We already have a system built by ITA, the Information Technology Agency, to track how many cases, intakes, as well as how many cases we manage. And that's going to be like the bread and butter of our operation. Of course, we've done numerous local media outlets, in local newspapers, as well as television, and even our local NPR stations to talk about what we do here in the department. But we have a number of milestones and accomplishments. The letter that's here before me is like 4 pages long, but I just wanted to give you a few of the highlights about, what we have, done and some of the metrics. So I really appreciate that. Full disclosure, before I went to law school, I was a community development block grant analyst. So looking back at the metrics is always something that's important, because if we're standing something up, especially with taxpayer dollars, we want to be responsible in all that we do. So thank you for that question. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I just add, not a question, but I advise you, have you talked to Mr. Galprin of the city controller and looked at how he presents his metrics? I think that's a great model for, maybe you could get some advice from him about how to present your data.
Yes, and we are leaning in with him on, with his staff on the participatory budget process of seeing where some of the greatest needs are in the city. I'm hoping to steal a lot of his ideas, and he's someone that's very supportive of our department and what we do. And I really, I kind of get envious of his great metrics and in his charts and maps. So, but thank you for that reminder. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Sid. Karen, you have the floor.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Capri. A wonderful presentation. You've accomplished so much. And one of my questions is the status of the diversity and inclusion and anti-bias training that will be added to the neighborhood council's trainings. What's the status of that at this point? And my second question was about if you have an example of what some of those consequences will be under the the discrimination in enforcement, like maybe just an example of what that looks like in a form of accountability to someone who discriminates.
Great. All of these are great questions. I think it's, what was your first question? I'm sorry, Karen.
That's okay. About the diversity, inclusion, and anti-bias training for neighborhood council board members?
Yes.
Because it was in process.
So, yeah, and I'm glad that Gibson is still on the line. What we've done is we had one of our staff members meeting with the general manager of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and to make suggestions about who could actually take on that assignment. And we actually agreed on having one vendor that was working with the city in a substantial way. And I won't say the vendor's name, but I will tell you this is that they were pretty much, I think, backlogged with work at the time and couldn't take on another assignment. And so I think they're actually looking for another vendor, but you should know. And Gibson, if you're still on the line, I think if you have anything extra that you can weigh in on, I know that Jamana from our team was working with General Manager Raquel Beltran on this effort. Gibson, do you know anything more than they're looking for another potential vendor? And we do have some resources in the city.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maddox.
I know also, I think the British shop is, go ahead.
Yeah, so we are working on a sort of, we're definitely working on multiple projects at the moment. We will be going to, the first vendor that we're working on at the moment is also Viteris. We'll be doing a survey that'll be coming out soon to all neighborhood to Angelinos, as well as board members who register to receive a ballot. And there's also collaboration, again, that has been mentioned with Ms. Maddox's team. So we are working on several initiatives. So there's a couple of things that'll be coming down the pipeline. We'll be getting board members to participate in that as well. Also from my end, we're still also working on racial equity as well. And so our departments are collaborating intensively. We are really we're working, it's a team effort, especially when they're coming to address these issues, and we're trying to do it systematic. And we want to make sure also we're not, we also work with personnel on few projects. So we are making sure that our work is not redundant. So we just want to make sure that we are able to do it collaboratively. But yes, that's the word. I hope I said it correctly.
Thank you so much, Gibson. And I'll answer the second part of the question as far as punishment. Most of the remedies could be, just to mediation and to, as I said, when I was a prosecutor, go and send no more. But we would actually, sometimes people make agreements that, their staff would do training. Like, say, for example, if you wanted to go to a coffee shop and they said, we don't allow women here or people of a certain race to come into our business, then maybe they might agree, like, that was a one-off. This is a major corporation. We've never had that problem. We just had a staff member that needs training or needs mediation or needs counseling, and we're going to do that. Or it could be, this is a systemic problem and everyone, on the team needs training, or it could be even monetary fines up to $150,000. And if there are really egregious cases, the cost can go up to $250,000. It's really an admin remedy, and it does not preclude any other actions from taking place. So if someone wants to, reserve the right to, move forward with a lawsuit, they're able to do that as well. So that's kind of, the wide range from mediation to, $250,000 in fines for the most egregious cases.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Karen. Alvin, you've got the floor.
Hi, Capri. Excellent presentation once again. I guess one of the questions that I had as far as getting involved in, legal remedies such as, discrimination. One of the things that one of the ongoing issues, especially when it comes to employment, is kind of the fear of retaliation from an employer. Just wondering how you guys address that particular issue.
And I think it's really important. Another, important question to ask, because when you think about discrimination in the workplace, retaliation is something that a lot of people deal with once a claim is filed. And one thing I wanted to do is just to let you know that the Department of Fair Employment and Housing actually covers a lot of this space as relates to housing and employment claims. And, just to show the screen just for a second, we really don't have as much space that we cover in housing and employment cases, primarily because of the Department of Fair Employment and Housing and the EEOC cover a lot of this space. But as it relates to discrimination in your employment status, your primary language and source of income are areas that the state and the federal government don't cover. So a lot of what's happening as far as protected classes for us, for the most part, would be people not being able to, get a position in most instances. But there are protections that we have. And again, we'll have an assistant general manager that will handle our legal issues, as well as partnerships with the Department of Fair Employment and Housing and some of our local legal aid operations. But that is something that you need to definitely take, the people need to take strong consideration and as they bring in cases, to be educated on what to do when retaliation happens, because retaliation is real. I have a friend that I went to graduate school with that is dealing with an issue where retaliation is a real problem, a totally different state, something I'm not working on, but just to kind of hear of some of the things that happen are concerning. And you think like, does that really happen? Well, it does. So when people are thinking about bringing a case, I think it's important to talk to your legal representation, whether it's someone in the private sector, or if you're going through Department of Fair Employment and Housing or EOC, to just talk about, like, what do I do if retaliation happens? And the main thing is, people would ask, your legal counsel would ask you to document that activity too. And sometimes it can be leaving you out of meetings, or alienating you from everything, or other things that could create a hostile work environment. Whereas for the 10 years you worked there, everyone, people said good morning to you when you came into work, and now no one speaks to you at all. Like, there's so many things that can be considered retaliation, and then you would document all that information and then share it with your lawyer, and they would make a cause of action, add it to the cause of action of whether or not to put out there whether or not you've been retaliated against. So that's kind of it. Sometimes you have to take your equipment, take your computer, take your laptop away, and it's like, how am I supposed to work? How am I supposed to Zoom meetings or whatever? So, like, there's different forms of retaliation, but it's really real. So thank you for that question. And I think you said something about how to get involved. What did you mean by that?
No, what I was asking was what your department's level of involvement was with that.
Yeah, so once we start the legal and the legal enforcement arm, in the beginning of next year. Of course, they gave us our positions for January, and it takes a while to get people hired. So I'm hoping that by the end of March, we have those folks on board, hired, if they're not given the offers to come on board to help us, because we need to get this part of our operation going ASAP. And that would pretty much be the last of all the commitments that I shared with you for our new department to be launched. Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. President?
Oscar, unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. No, I'm sorry. Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, so I think we're good. Ms. Maddox, I thank you so much for a great presentation, for your time. And like I said, you've accomplished a lot since the last time that you came to our, I think it was our outreach committee meeting. So thank you so much. And Karen, I want to thank you for coordinating all these efforts with Ms. Maddox and her team.
My pleasure.
So thank you so much. And great.
And I
great
see Mark Kampman from our office is sneaking on the call too. He's our
Yes.
comms director. And Candace works so well with Karen and Oscar. Even this weekend, you're working, sending things out. So shout out to you too, Mr. President, for your work behind the scenes and making things happen as well. Thank you to Karen again for the invite.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Maddox.
Thank you so much.
Together,
Thank you, Mark.
together we're stronger and better, right?
That's right.
right.
Keep the faith, keep the fight. Thank you so much. Enjoy
Thank
the
you
rest
so
of
much.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, let's see. That was a great presentation. Wow, they've done a lot.
Yeah, fantastic.
A lot more to come, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, and again, Karen, thank you so much for coordinating all that effort.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Okay, so let's see. Why don't we move on then? It is 7:45. So let's move on to item E1. Again, as I was mentioning earlier, so all those meeting minutes you should have received 4 days ago, and hopefully you've reviewed them. I'd like to just kind of move forward, and if we can, just to vote for all of them at once, unless, of course, you know, it's open for discussion or questions. So does anyone have any comments or questions regarding any of the meeting minutes? Okay, I don't see anyone raising hands.
Move to approve, Oscar.
All right, Karen moves to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Okay, Thomas seconds that. Okay. So I'm just going to start with any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? I hear none. Okay, so therefore, all these meeting minutes pass, they're approved. Okay. Great. Right, item 3, discussion motion to establish ad hoc committee to review GHNNC bylaws. So it's time to review them. This came up when from our last meeting, when we were looking at the committees, specifically with the Emergency Preparedness Committee, because there's nothing in our bylaws that indicates or defines what the role is of that committee. So that's one area that needs to be addressed. So are there any members of the board who would like to be on this ad hoc committee? Ms. Karen?
Me. Karen. Mhm.
Any others?
I will volunteer, but I won't be in charge of it. Sid Gold.
Okay, thank you, Sid. Is there any other interest? I expect that it would probably be 2, maybe no more than 3 meetings, maybe, to review this.
Last time we had 2, right? It was pretty quick.
I think it was.
Oscar, what ad hoc committee?
The bylaws.
Bylaws.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Preparedness. No, I'll volunteer for that.
Okay. All right, so we've got 3. I think that's a good start. So if anyone else is interested, just let me know. Okay, so right now Karen Waters, Sid, and Brian.
Actually, Oscar, I'm in as well.
Is that Robert?
I couldn't get my, yes, I couldn't get my laptop unmuted.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Robert, thank you so much. All right, let's move on to item 4, discussion motion to organize GHNNC retreat. So the idea here is to bring everybody together, and so that way we can have our representative Gibson, maybe he can join us and help us kind of coordinate this and kind of guide us through the requirements of each of the board members, and also how we can work together. I mean, not that we do a good job working together, but there's always ways to improve, right? So this came from, was this from the outreach? Anyway, so.
Well, this came from our meeting that we had to form the committees, and we didn't have a retreat from 2019. We haven't had a retreat, so this would be a good time.
We should then take it down to a committee to start coordinating and scheduling something. Would that be, I think maybe, let's see, so this probably.
Well, maybe what works for everyone, because, sometimes it's difficult for maybe put some options out there for what people would like to see. Do we take one half, do we do a special meeting? Do we do it on the weekend? I mean, because some people aren't available, so kind of maybe put some options out there.
So what is this looking, what is this going to look like? Maybe a half day? Is that what we're thinking?
Maybe like a normal board meeting time we don't want it to be too long, but.
I think you're looking at about.
What do other people do? What do other neighborhood councils do?
I think you're looking at about 2 to 3 hours maximum.
Yeah.
And it should be coordinated with a specific agenda. And yes, it's a special meeting.
Everything that Brian just mentioned, I think that's what we're doing with some of my boards. And if the retreat goes longer, sometimes we're cutting it into 2 as well. The goal is to make sure folks don't get exhausted, especially since everything is virtual. It's just making sure that we don't have burnout and board members don't log out so we lose quorum. So 3 hours, but I'm averaging 2.5.
Okay.
And I think if at all possible, it would be nice to have it on a weekend, but that's something the board can decide.
Yeah.
Okay. Sid, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to make a suggestion. I think it should follow under one of the committees, either the executive committee or the outreach committee, to come together and present the plan to the board.
Okay. Why don't we do that then? Let's and then maybe we can coordinate that with Gibson. So that's a good suggestion, Sid. So let's put that on the executive committee to start.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, so we will put that on the agenda for the next executive committee meeting.
Yeah.
All right, discussion motion to establish a Granada Hills North Neighborhood Council Youth Committee. This idea came from Brian. I think it's a great idea so that we can kind of maybe, start getting the youth, the young ones more involved, and what that format's going to look like or how, what that's going to look like, we don't know just yet, but the idea is out there. And we feel that maybe Sitlali, being our student representative, can help us with that. So any questions? Okay, so Karen,
actually just Tara is going to be of some assistance. I asked for her to kind of help she and Sitlali to coordinate with Kennedy and Frost, kind of thinking of a CSUN student, a high school senior, and a 8th grader, middle school 8th grader, is like keeps it simple, and Tara had some suggestions for marketing as well. So looks like they're off to a good start.
Oh, okay, excellent. So we can always reach out to Tara.
Yes.
Great idea. Thank you, Karen. Brian.
Yeah, I think we should actually not limit it. Allow this to be a youth committee that has a maximum number, but I wouldn't limit it to 2 or 3 or 4. And I would suggest that we solicit the schools throughout Granada Hills and see if we can't find people who are interested in being a part of this. And it should be done, all of this should be done, if Citlali wants to, through her, to ensure that she has a committee that she can have regular meetings with and discuss items that we may discuss in the future, or we may have discussed, so that they can understand what's going on and how we function. That would be my suggestion. I would think we would first sit down with Citlali in a ad hoc meeting to formulate a plan for what it would look like.
Okay. Good suggestion. Any other comments? Citlali, I see that smile. Don't worry, you're not going to be alone. So, Graham.
Yes, just to piggyback off of what Karen and Brian said, I think another idea or suggestion could be to add that as an agenda item to one of our outreach meetings, to have Citlali join us and, figure out what that group would be, so we wouldn't have to have a special meeting or something, and then we can present that to the board or agenda, with whatever, committee or outreach that we're going to do, coordinated through her and the schools and whatever representatives, she wants to put together on that. It's
Yes.
just another idea.
Excellent suggestion, if that's okay. I think that's excellent, Graham. And
Rob-
Citlali, of course, you're the leader, so you let us know if that's something you approve of.
Okay, and Robert, you've got your hand up. You've got the floor, my
Yeah,
friend.
and it might be putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit, but as far as recruiting of members for something like this, this used to be the Boy Scouts, now it's just Scouts of America, or Scouts BSA. There's a lot of people that are working towards merit badges that involve community involvement, things like citizenship in the community, and so those might be places to recruit membership. And it's now a co-ed organization, so you would do well to have a good mix through them.
Okay.
That's a great suggestion.
I have a question for Gibson. Gibson, does the youth committee have to all reside in the boundaries of Granada Hills North Neighborhood Council? Unmute yourself, Gibson.
Unmute yourself, Gibson.
Sorry about that. Let me just double check on your bylaws to make sure how you do board member qualifications. But for my assessment, they do have to be from within the boundaries of this board.
Okay.
Similar to how every board member needs to participate.
So be a stakeholder in some form or fashion, not necessarily be a resident, but they could be a stakeholder by virtue of involvement in organizations within the boundaries.
Oscar,
Brian.
there may be students that don't reside here but are students, so we have to keep that definition to stakeholders. And we should also keep in mind that as a youth committee, there should always be one adult board member at every meeting.
Right. Well, that's Citlali's. Isn't your birthday on Friday? You're going to be officially an adult, so that's not a problem anymore. So.
Wow, coming up. Wow. Okay, she's going to be an adult.
You'll be able to vote on funding items as well.
Okay, so then.
So outreach will agendize this, and we will work through it, and we'll Citlali, I'll send an agenda to you as well, and we will work through this. Sounds good.
Very good. Thank you, Karen. And great ideas. Thank you for all the suggestions. So hopefully it's something that can come to fruition, and it'll be a good way to bring people into the neighborhood council, and hopefully they can fill in when those of us who are getting older, and anyway. So, all right.
We fade away, right? Okay.
Right. Okay, let's see. Item 6, discussion motion to appoint a member of the board to the following. So there are, Sid brought this to my attention. Thank you, Sid, that there's other, I guess you could call them positions that are, you know, the GHNNC or board members represent at other organizations or boards. The first one being Bank Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils. So with that, is there anyone who would be interested? Bank meets once a month, and it is on Thursdays usually.
First Thursday, and Link is first Saturday. Link is about 10 to 1 if you're lucky, and Vank, I have to admit, although sometimes the meetings are interesting, I have fallen asleep on quite a few because they can run as late as 11 o'clock.
No, bank is the second Thursday. Starts at 6:30, supposed to end by 9. Sometimes it doesn't.
6:30. Okay, thank you, Sid. And Lank is the first Saturday. Okay.
And it starts at 10 o'clock on the first Saturday. And usually it's around 1.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Sid for all 3. And keep in mind, folks, that a representative who is given the title of liaison is not the only people who can meet at these meetings. Others can attend, but we should have a dedicated representative. It's just like I attend every bank meeting, but Sid has been the representative. So on any vote that goes on, it is Sid's vote that is counted.
Well, as I told Oscar, I brought that to Oscar's attention. I'm willing to serve, but if there's other people interested, I'm willing to relinquish. It's a lot easier than it used to be. I used to have to drive downtown with Zoom meetings. There's very little driving involved now. So, but,
is the idea though, Sid, that they're going to continue with virtual meetings? We don't know that, right?
I don't know.
I mean, that would be ideal, but okay. But you accept the nomination for, is that both the link and the link?
And the Department of Water and Power Memorandum of Understanding.
I just love those acronyms. So, okay, I'll second that motion for that nomination. So any opposed? I guess we have to go through that. I hear none. Any abstentions? I hear none. Okay, Sid,
Thank you.
Our liaison for those 3. Thank you so much. And thank you for always, for all the time that you put in and for being on these committees in the past. Thank you. Okay. Let us
Are we moving on?
Move on to treasurer report.
Well, there is no treasurer report. The MER is not available for another
Right,
day or
that's
two.
that's not listed. Okay, so let's go through then and review the budget. Everyone, at the last meeting, we did move forward and approve the 2022 budget. But there were some requests to look at the details, line item details. Brian did send something out on Saturday. We all had a chance to review it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I think I've got it open. Okay, so
the effort was to try to explain very briefly what the new budget, what we approved, because there were questions. And it should be stated that the budget is just a budget. It is not hard and fast. It can be modified every meeting. It's not something that's in stone. So the definitions or descriptions that I have given on this are are explaining why I chose the way I did and what we have. So if there's any questions on that, I'll be happy to address them.
Can everyone see my screen? Is that big enough, hopefully?
That's better.
Okay, I can make it bigger if you guys want.
You can scroll around.
Okay. So here we are at the top, okay?
So the big question is, if everybody read it, is there any questions? If there are no questions, then we're good to go.
So Brian, if I'm looking at the last column, expenses incurred, and look at the total, so last year was
to the left.
30,000.
Okay, Oscar, to the left is a buildup of the budget as it is right now. And this budget has been uploaded to NC funding. The in red, that is what we spent last year.
Correct.
And to the right of that is the definition for what my what the amounts that I put in there, why they are at that amount.
So, and in looking at this particular item, row 41, this is the NPG. So what we spent this year's shy of 15,000. And to Brian's point, last year, our budget, I believe, was also 10,000, right? But we took money from other areas that we weren't spending. Specifically, there was a big savings when it came to the elections. We were expecting to spend quite a significant amount of money on the elections. I believe that would be here. Let's see.
Elections are down below. Right there.
Where am I looking at? Oh,
Right there.
500, okay.
And as I say, I put 500 in there. I mean, the first question that anybody asks about it, an election budget at this time is, well, there's not going to be an election this year, but there is going to be a need or a desire to recruit more people because we have open positions. So that $500, if we use it, can be used to outreach to the community for any stakeholder that would be interested in being on the board.
So here, for example, two areas where we had lower spend than we would have had in the budget, events, and the other is miscellaneous outreach, right, Brian, last year? So that's where we would have borrowed money for the MPGs.
Yeah, we would have, but the reason why there is a little difference here is because when I made the budget, there was no expectation of a potential lockdown of any kind, whether for any reason. So the assumption was we were going to go back to live meetings, live events. It looks like at this point that there's going to be still some reluctance to do that. We know that the council meetings are not going to be live until at the earliest December or the end of December. So there may be an excess amount of money sitting there that can be used for other reasons, and that's fine. We can move it when we need it.
Correct.
And that's true for every category. Well, I won't say every category because when it comes to office expenses, they exist. I mean, the facility rent is the facility rent. It's a little higher than what is actual because I don't know if there's going to be an increase. So I tried to pad it by $100 and I tried to ensure that we are not going to get caught flat-footed on any of these costs. But we never know. We don't know. We can't know. We won't know until we actually incur the costs.
Thank you, Brian. I like the report. Thank you for putting it together. I love the explanations. So at this point, let's see. Michael, you've got the floor. You've raised your hand.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that I talked to St. Euphrasia today, and they have us penciled in on our second Tuesday of every month through the year. So if we want to go back to live meetings, we can.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Any other questions on this item? I don't see any more hand. I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay, so
thank you, Brian.
Let's move on.
Yeah, thank you.
The CAG, I think everybody if there's anybody that doesn't know what the CAG is, Community Advisory Group, please raise your hand, ask me questions. But the CAG has kind of, it hasn't gone dormant, but because of DPH moving it to once a quarter, there really isn't much activity with the CAG. However, 3 of us from the CAG have established, and I don't know if everybody has heard this before, have established a California nonprofit corporation. And we are in the process this week of filing for a 501c3. And once we receive the 501c3, that corporation, which is named Environmental Health Research, will begin to pursue its goals, which its major goal is to provide an alternative health study for the Valley residents, alternative to DPH. Reason being, throughout 22 months, we have come to the conclusion, and we pretty much are 100% right, that DPH will be doing a environmental health study rather than a patient-centric health study. And we don't believe that that is effective or appropriate. We're talking about the largest, most dangerous gas blowout in the history of the United States. And we believe that there is information that needs to be uncovered, and we believe that there is a need to ensure that the public knows what happened to them, what has happened to them, and what may still be happening to them. So we're looking into that as well. So we're moving forward. We do want to have a town hall shortly. We're hoping to have it. We wanted to have it the 14th and 16th of August, but we were unable to accomplish that because of vacations. So we are looking now to establish a date near the end of August, and that will be determined shortly, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 days. And we will be moving forward. So if there's any questions on what the CAG is doing now and what EHR is doing, I'll be happy to address that as well. So everybody's comfortable with that.
I don't see
Okay,
any.
that's fine. The budget advocates, as Glenn mentioned earlier, I'll give you a quick summary. Glenn is still online, and I would like to make sure that everyone knows that Glenn has been elected as a co-chair of the budget advocates. That is a good thing. And hopefully, Glenn will be able to bring this organization back to its glory days. It wasn't so good glory days last year. The pandemic and other reasons, it was not all that great. But I think there is a chance that it can come back to something more appropriate than it has been. And we are off to a running start, as we said. And we will be developing committees, and we will be pursuing the efforts that we have always pursued. So we will be asking anyone who is interested to participate in giving us ideas, asking questions in any way that you can. And I'm again here to answer any questions that you would like. If you don't know what budget advocates do, please ask me, because I'm not sure the new people understand the budget advocates. There's a little concern on my part that the budget advocates have turned a corner and gone off a little bit in the wrong direction. The budget advocates have in the past, since I've been a member, been focused on the budget itself and how it has been applied, and to review that to determine if there is anything that we could suggest that could be a better use of the funds in terms of how they have planned to use them. But there has been some efforts to move in a direction of policy change. I personally am not in favor of that. I don't think the budget advocates have a purpose in policy change. I think that is a different advocacy, but certainly some people do. So there is some difference there, and maybe members of this board would like to see a different approach to the budget than the city is envisioning. That would be a policy change, and I would think that would be something that people could weigh in on if they want. But from my perspective, the budget advocates are a organization that looks at the departments, identifies what's being budgeted, reviews it, tries to do their best to determine whether the money is being spent properly or wisely, and provide suggestions on how to change that. I have a few suggestions myself that are kind of radical, but I haven't proposed them. And we need to move forward. So if you have any questions on that, please share with me.
Miss Karen.
Yes, Brian, I had a couple questions. One was the budget advocates are not certified by the city. That came up at one of the it was either Lanker Bank, one of those meetings I was at, that came up. And the second thing that came up was out of 99 neighborhood councils, there's only 33 neighborhood councils participate. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I heard that, so I thought I would ask you.
Okay. I was going to mention before we end this that Glenn is certainly welcome to weigh in, but in turn, I did a study on who has contributed to the budget advocates, I think a year ago or two, and I used 5 years worth of contributions. And there is more than 40% of the NCs have contributed to the budget advocates over those 5 years. The issue can't be quantified because if you go back to the beginning, that number may be 100%. I don't know. But every NC doesn't contribute every year. As you know, we did approve some last year, but because of the pandemic and because of the frustrations that we were going through, we did not send any money to them. And there were some problems which you are alluding to right now with the we're not certified. There are problems where there were a number of budget advocates that were questioning the role of DUN in making decisions on behalf of the budget advocates with regards to its money. That's still up in the air. It's still being negotiated. I personally have talked to Raquel. Glenn just now finds that out. I haven't told him that. But it's separate from the negotiations of the budget advocates. They are doing their own negotiations. I don't think there's as big a problem as some budget advocates think there is. I believe it will go back to a normalcy. I know that the city clerk is certainly supporting the idea of separate accounts for different entities if that money is going to be if money is going to be provided for more than just the budget advocates. So I don't think there is a big problem, but time will tell. There are still problems to be resolved. But to answer your question with regards to certified, the budget advocates as an organization is not a city organization. The issue of budget review was given to the NCs. Out of that came a decision to set up a budget advocate operation. It was set up with representatives from the NCs. So precedent has it, and I made this statement to Raquel myself, and she agreed. Precedent has it that what we have established in the past does exist. However, technically, we are just an alliance, but we're no less of an alliance than any other alliance. And as a matter of fact, we are a more appropriate alliance with the city because we've been recognized by the mayors and by the city council. We have a seat at the table with the Budget and Finance Committee. So we have a much more involved environment, and it will be difficult for the city to tell us that we do not have those rights when it has been accepted as precedents in the past. So you're right about the technical statement certified, but in reality, we are an organization that has been accepted by the city, and it has to be a technical argument if you're going to do anything about it. And to my understanding no one is trying to destroy the budget advocates. No one is trying to defund them. It's a matter of trying to have everybody see it the same way and get on the same line and feel comfortable with each other. And I think that can happen. I'm pretty sure it will happen. And Glenn, I'll be happy to talk to you privately about this if you want.
Well, thank you for that very thorough answer.
Thank you, Brian. But can I just expand on something you said? So if the budget advocate groups are, I mean, the way I look at it, just based on what you said, it's an extension of the neighborhood councils. So I would think you do have significant weight then. And if not, if something happens, I mean, couldn't the neighborhood councils come and support, the budget advocates and, and say to the city, these are representatives of the neighborhood council, so therefore they should have weight.
Well, they do have weight, and the budget advocates have a long history now of communication with the departments, communication with the city council, communication with the mayor. Those are all accepted, and they exist and they're ongoing. And there's been no, I have seen nothing that says that any of that will be changed in any way, shape, or form. The confusion started last year when there was some dissension in the ranks and a new organization was established. With the new organization, there was obvious consternation on the part of Dunn and the city as to how do we do this? What do we do? And then the budget advocates also have a kind of a rule that says we do not get involved in political issues, right? And unfortunately, there has been some issues that have been presented outside the budget advocates and inside that are more political than analytical. The budget advocates are an analytical operation, not a political organization. And yet there is some political efforts that go on. And in my opinion, it's only my opinion, it shouldn't. But I'm not the decision maker on it. The budget advocates as a whole are, and I can't tell you where it's going to go. But I do hope that it goes back to being the analytical organization with the respect of the ideas that it brings forward to the city, and it makes a difference, because it has made a difference in the past. There is a very large percentage of suggestions that the budget advocates have made in the past that have been accepted by the city. So based on that, the budget advocates have a lot to contribute still, and should be proud of what they have done and should work diligently towards making all of that happen again.
Thank you, sir. And Glenn, congratulations, by the way. All right.
Can I ask, Glenn, do you have anything to add?
He's probably stepped away for a bit.
He may have, yeah.
Okay. Then let's move on then. Plum report. There was no meeting, right? So we can move on. Emergency Preparedness Committee report. Again, nothing there yet. Hopefully, Karen, thank you for reaching out to Dave Brown and coordinating efforts with Robert. And I'm hoping that Dave comes back and says he'd be willing to at least have some kind of virtual introduction, virtual meeting to introduce himself with all of our emergency preparedness members.
Right.
So
I'm sure he'll do great.
Wait, so Thomas,
They'll
yes,
get along wonderful.
Yes, yeah, Oscar, thank you so much. I just wanted yes, confirm there was not a meeting last month. It was just postponed. We will have a meeting this month coming up on the 19th. And I just wanted to kind of inform the board that I was contacted about putting on the agenda to have a discussion of the proposed Morningstar Senior Living Complex on Rinaldi and Shoshone. So I just wanted to alert the board to that in advance. I would like to have more people to attend the meeting, so I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. And just the other, since we're on this too, just FYI, Thomas, I'll reach out to you regarding the property on Balboa and Rinaldi. The developer there has reached out again. So he may also present at your next PLUM meeting. I did have a conversation before this meeting with Hannah Lee from John Lee's office, specifically related to that item. And she did provide some guidance. So I will have that discussion with you. And I aim to reach out to Armin Gregorian, the owner of that property, just to let him know what the next steps would be.
Thank you, Oscar. I appreciate that. Karen did kind of allude that there was possibly something in the discussion. So thank you, Oscar. Yep. I appreciate that. And yeah, I definitely would like to speak with you offline, kind of get up to speed before, you know, if he approaches me to ask to be on the agenda. So thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Sounds good. We have an attendee with the hands up. Is this Mr. Hales?
I'll hold my hand up.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll come back to you, Ralph. Yes, Mr. Hales.
Okay, just quickly, your PLUM committee, just a friendly reminder, make sure that you get that council file and review it for your next meeting, because your input may be mute or zero after this month. So thank you. That's all, just a friendly reminder.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we've got that written down, or I've got it written down. So Thomas, if you need it, I can forward you that council file number. Ralph, you had your hand up?
Yes, I have had several discussions with Gregorian in regards to that corner. And I recommended that he call John Whitecamp in Alaska. And I gave him the phone number to find out a lot of the workings of the Granada Hills area, because John Whitecamp was the one that really made many of the rules. And Hunter and I were both on his committee for many years. So rather than getting, you know, secondhand information, I suggested he contact John Whitecamp, and he did. He has had conversations on that. So I don't know, you know, all the conversations because I wasn't in on it, but he did say he had conversations and he has things to follow up.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to reach out to Armin based on the discussion that I had with Hannah Lee and the guidance that she's provided to let him know what the next steps are and what it's going to look like. So that way, at least it's transparent and he knows what to expect. Okay, great. Let's see, moving on. Citywide Issues Committee report said. So these are two items that we
they've been sitting around for a while.
Postponed from the last meeting.
And two meetings also. The first one is sort of, looking at it differently. It's the original result, the mayor's proposal to distribute funds received in the federal COVID as a monthly stipend to designated residents of the city of Los Angeles. At that time, his proposal was rather vague. What's come to light recently that there's nationwide $1 trillion in money being held that's not being distributed for people who are behind in their rents. And I don't know how much of that in the city is not being distributed, it's just sitting there in a bank. No one's figured out how to pay the landlords or whatever. And the Congress has not voted a moratorium on evictions, but there's apparently money lying around to help people with their rents. And rather than addressing that one issue, what has come to mind is that we asked John Lee to look at how the COVID money is being distributed with an emphasis on exploring the possibility that the money be given to those who are facing evictions because of inability to pay their rent at this time. Because there is money sitting around there. And I don't know how much it is in the city, but I'm sure it's in the millions of dollars that has not been distributed. So I want to withdraw that resolution and change that. We look at the federal COVID money as John Lee to investigate that and to put an emphasis on allocating money to those renters who are facing eviction for failure to pay their rent.
So is this something that could be discussed at your next citywide committee?
Well, the money's sitting there, and, you know, people are being evicted now, and I think it's something that's sort of urgent. That's why I'm looking at it, because what I've read in the Wall Street Journal, there's $1 trillion around the country it's not been distributed. It's been allocated, but it's not being distributed. And I don't know the number in the city of Los Angeles that are facing this, but I'm sure there's a lot, and I'm sure there's money that's been allocated to the city. So I'd like our councilman to look into that. I think that would be a better way of using the COVID money as I see it now.
So what is?
Resolution would be to write a letter asking John Lee to explore the federal COVID money allocated to the city and to placing an emphasis on allocating money to those renters who are facing eviction. Because money has been set aside specifically for that purpose.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to write this. Motion to write letter to John Lee's office regarding is it federal funding, did you say?
Yeah, federal COVID funding for the city. They received, I forget, a lot of money for COVID. I don't know the exact $1 million, but many millions of dollars. It was supposed to go for
1.9 billion, or is that a different amount?
I don't know the exact, it was a big number. Okay, and I'm asking John to look at that money, see if that money could be allocated to those who are really facing a serious problem right now of eviction if they don't have their funds. That's it would just create more homeless in the city, which I think this would be an easy remedy. So an easier remedy.
Okay, hold on. Alvin, you had your hand up, and then Michael, I'll come to you in just a moment.
Yeah, mine was going to be really quick. I'm actually in agreement with Sid on this one because I actually did just hear about this today on the news, and California was one of the states that had local municipalities where the funds were, you know, just sitting there but undistributed. So I'm actually in agreement of this.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
I have nothing against bailing people out, all right? However, I think that some effort should be made to make sure that anybody we're bailing out isn't sitting at home collecting their unemployment money and their bonuses while they're not paying their rent or not paying their back rent when there are jobs available everywhere. I don't know how you would manage it, but you know, this state is known for people who know how to work the system. And I mean, look at the unemployment monies that were going out to people in prison and in Nigeria and France and Germany. So I think some care should be made to who's getting this relief.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead, Sid.
I think it's a good point. I think in a letter we could write to John that he investigate funding people appropriately facing funding in an appropriate manner those people who are facing eviction. And he would then make a decision to, in his way of being in city council, to define appropriately. That's my way of addressing what you're saying, Michael.
Yeah, I agree, Sid. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm almost would rather than this go to committee then, so that you can come up with a formal letter. And it's well-written, spelled out in terms of what we expect or what we're hoping John's office can do as far as one, allocating, distributing the funds and identifying who really is in need of this. Because we could sit here all night and try and devise this letter or
Right.
Alvin?
If I'm not mistaken, doesn't that have to be done in the form of a community impact statement?
If there's a council file, but there isn't a council file on this, right? Or is there?
It's probably in a supplementary budget somewhere that I'm not aware of. I would have to look it up. I just felt this is an emergency thing. I think that I'm proposing to the council, to the board here, the gist of the letter, and I will run it by the executive committee. But I think the board has the gist that we're asking our council person to look at how this money is distributed, and with an emphasis on exploring those families facing eviction and appropriately explore that. I don't think we have to write the letter here. I just want the gist of the matter is here. But if you want to put it back to the committee, I think that we're going to lose a lot of people who are going to be evicted for it. And could have done something. That's just my point.
Can I?
Wait, Michael had his hand up. Michael?
Yeah, I agree with Sid because, this is, I don't want them to start spending this money without some input. And I think we just need to amend the resolution here to craft a letter to CD 12 by the citywide committee to reflect our views on how the money should go out, where it's going out, and how it's being distributed and when.
I would agree on that.
I can attempt to find out how much. I think the first thing we should do is find out how much money we do have. And I can attempt to find that out because I have a good relationship with Office of Finance. And if the money has come in, they will know that it is in our hands. So
it doesn't matter how much we have at the moment.
No, it doesn't, but it does make a difference in how we approach it as we go forward. So I can try and find out how much money is there.
But I definitely think that we should act tonight on this to get a letter out for Sid to draft it, send a copy to the executive committee for any tweaks, and then send it on to John.
Make a motion.
That is my
motion. Oh, you
motion.
can't. You really can't make a motion because it's not on the agenda.
No, I'm amending.
It's an amendment.
Graham, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I don't know if this applies, which I think it does, but I don't know if you saw in the news today, the CDC extended the federal eviction ban till October 3rd and will help about 90% of renters. So I don't know if this is necessarily as pressing as it seems, because I figured that they probably would extend that eviction ban. But I also don't know about agreeing to a letter without knowing the exact language of what that's going to be. But I do agree with Michael and everyone's input on making sure that it's responsibly given out and, how it's distributed or to whom. So I think, it probably would be best to table this for now and put it to a meeting to get a correct letter. But I think a letter needs to be sent, and it would be great to distribute those funds that are sitting there.
Hey, Graham, the CDC does not have the power to make that recommendation. That has to come through elected bodies, not appointed people. So they're gonna hit a wall with some people. That has to go through the Congress or an executive order from the president. It's the only way that that can be, a law. CDC does not make law.
Yeah, I was gonna add that.
I
What they
get-
did
I
is
get
they
that.
made a recommendation.
Right, I get that, I get that.
May I make a point? I'd like to make a point of order here.
Okay, wait, Karen has her hand up. Let's move to Karen.
Yes, what I'd like to, I agree with what has been said thus far. But the way we operate is that we have these done in committees, so our meetings can move on. So it's not gonna, to Graham's point, I mean, for the city of Los Angeles, we have different protection factors in place. So let's verify what those are. We do need to have qualified, like eviction letter or whether it's rent or mortgage and things like that. But, those items should be conducted in the committee, put together in the committee, and then sent back so that we don't do this at the board meeting. So we can be efficient at our board meetings and move along. It's a valid point, but if we can have the committee work on it, and then we can continue to move ahead. But it is a valid concern, valid point. But let's, to Brian's point, they'll find out exactly how much is involved, and then we find out what the protections still remain, and then take it from there. So we can move along.
So just as a point of order, if we'll feel that it should be tabled, then there should be a motion to table the first resolution and send it back. That someone has to do that without discussion.
There's a motion on the table to amend I-1.
Right. Someone can move to table the whole I-1 right now. If that's.
Second that.
Yes.
I didn't make the motion. Someone has.
Okay, I make the motion to table.
Wait a minute. I made a motion to amend I-1. Okay,
Yeah, regardless of your, again, it's just from a parliamentary standpoint, they're making a recommendation to table the whole matter, and that takes precedent over your amendment. Okay.
All right.
So Karen, are you making a motion to table?
I am.
And I guess great. So Oscar, you take over the meeting. There's now a motion to postpone the vote on I-1.
Okay, so Karen, and who seconded that motion?
I did.
Okay. So the motion is to postpone that. Table that motion, postpone, I should say, okay. All right, so those opposed to this motion, and that is to postpone this item.
I oppose.
Okay, wait, so
I oppose.
Michael Greenwald, Sid Gold. Anyone else? State your name.
Ralph Croy.
Ralph Croy. Anyone else?
I would oppose it also.
Brian Allen. Anyone else? Any abstentions? Okay, so therefore by default, all those others are in favor. Karen Waters, Graham Zach, Thomas Hartfield, is Raheem still on the call? Yes, Raheem Kazi, Nathan Lee, Sitlali Manso, Robert Moore, Alvin Waters. So that motion passes. So this item will be postponed for the next meeting. Or the other thing too, I would say I can recommend, if you want, because it is a time sensitive issue. I get all the arguments here, all the points. If we want to move up the citywide issues meeting, make it a special meeting so that they have time to do this, and then schedule a special meeting of the board. That's another option if everyone's agreeable to that.
No.
Okay, so anyway, for now, the motion is that we're going to postpone it. Okay, item I2, resolve that GHNNC prepare CIS opposing Council File -0153, the creation of a LA City Department of Health. Further resolve that no further action be taken on this council file and maintain the vote of the citizens that defeated a similar ballot proposal. Sid, do you want to?
Well, basically, there's a few of our elected officials who are upset with the way with the county handled the pandemic, and they want to take over control of this. And I think Brian has some comment about the Los Angeles County Public Health in another area. To me, the committee looked at it as just creating another bureaucracy for the city. We, for the most part, the LA County looks after all the health, the restaurants, and why the city has to take over that. I don't, it was always put to vote about 2 years ago, was voted down, and that was introduced by 2 councilmen to look into create another Department of Public Health for the city, which would be another department, another bureaucracy. And it's not even talked about how they're going to fund it, and all these things. So the committee opposed the concept of creating a new Department of Public Health for the city of Los Angeles. But Brian came to our meeting, raised some good points.
You have your hand up. You've got the floor.
Yeah, I understand where Sid's coming from. I really do. And I am opposed under most circumstances at just establishing another department, as we have been doing this last year. But in this particular situation, I'm very, very torn. The interaction that I have had with the general manager of DPH, that's Department of Public Health, LA County, and her top echelon, and the actions of DPH over the last 2 years, and I can only speak for the actions that I personally witnessed, make me want to take a chance at allowing the city to do a better job. And I say that because I know that there's 1.3 million people in the valley that are not being attempted. There's no attempt to really help them determine if they're damaged through a major event in their life. And I find that appalling. I find that if I was king, I would have gotten rid of everybody at DPH and started anew, because it is, in my opinion, it is absolutely the wrong thing to do, and it is not in consistency with their charter. So Sid's right. I have experience with DPH that says they're not doing their job as far as I'm concerned, and I'd like to see somebody get involved that is going to be concerned about the public health, not just their jobs and their paycheck. So that's my position.
Thank you, Brian. Robert, you've got the floor.
Yeah, just a little bit of inside information, being what my employment is. The city of Long Beach and the city of Pasadena both have their own health departments or public health departments. Well, health departments as well. And I will say, you know, during this whole thing, from the inside view, I really couldn't tell if they fared any better than LA County Department of Public Health on this. So I'm with you on the idea that, you know, just to create a department that, because I mean, I get it. You know, people are upset with the way things were handled, but to go in and start spending money on a department that you don't have money to spend on, you know, just because you're upset with them is not necessarily the way to go. But at the same token, I get it.
Thank you,
May I
Rob.
make a comment?
Anyone else? Ralph, go for it.
One of the problems I see is once you establish a department, I don't know if you ever can get rid of it. I mean, if you have it, let's say it's going to be temporary, and I don't know anything in the government that is temporary. I mean, we could set up something else and find out we're not happy with that, then what do? You can't get rid of it.
So is this department supposed to, or is the whole notion is that it's going to be temporary?
No, this is a permanent.
No.
Oh, it's permanent.
Yeah, it would be a permanent thing.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay. I see no more hands raised. So then let's go ahead and this came from committee, so we don't need a second. So let's go ahead and take a vote on item I2. Okay, those opposed to this motion, state your name.
I would have to be true to my statement. I'm opposed.
Okay, Brian Allen. Any others? State your name. I hear none. Any abstentions? I hear none. Okay, therefore, the remainder are in favor of this motion, so this motion passes. Okay.
Thank you.
Guys. Thank you, Sid. All right, item J. Item J, there was no outreach publicity meeting as well, but is there anything, Karen?
Yes, just some meetings that I attended, or Zoom meetings that I attended, and progress reports, if you will. And I would like to ask, Graham's doing a fantastic job working on the park segment, so I'm going to ask him to address that. But starting with our neighborhood council unanimously voted to a CIS in opposition of SB 910 and 478, which is the density, the density bills that would alter residential neighborhoods. And I learned at the United Chambers meeting that I attended that Luz Rivas voted to support that instead of oppose that. And so just for your thoughts, her assistant wanted to discuss this with the board further. And I just said that I'm going to take it to the board for, if they're interested, they'll let us know if they want to, they'll let me know. But at this point, she voted against what our CIS said. So just so that you know that happened. And at the VANC meeting, I don't know if Sid was there, Mike Fuhrer was the guest. And he addressed something that we've discussed and many other neighborhood councils have discussed often, which is taking action against other elected officials for what we may not like. And there was one or two people there at the time on that meeting. And Mike, this is from, and you're welcome to see the VANC meeting. They're recorded. You can watch them anytime to see what I'm about to. I'm going to give you a brief snippet of it. He said that, you know, us taking action like writing CISs or letters to condemn someone or call out an elected or appointed official, his office isn't going to act on it. They won't act on it. They allow that person to run their office. If they are elected, the voters speak and that's it. If they are appointed, the person who has appointed them may have, you know, has that right to address the issue, but they will not take action on letters and CISs that we place because we don't like something an elected official is doing. He doesn't take jurisdiction. He said that he prosecutes the misdemeanors and the felonies are prosecuted by the DA's office. So that was what he said about that, and that is available to view. For the citywide committee, I think Oscar and I actually had a conversation about this. The city of Granada Hills is designated for 7 marijuana dispensaries. I'm not sure how we missed something like this because the Department of Cannabis Regulation does not operate under the same plum and permit process and zoning processes. So I'm not sure how that got missed, but at this time, unless we do something about modifying the Granada Hills specific plan, we have one that passed, one marijuana dispensary on Chatsworth that is legal and approved, being run by someone who was convicted, but the sentence was overturned. So just so you know, so citywide, if you could please maybe look into that some more, see what actions can be taken, because at this point, right now, the city of Granada Hills has the potential to have 7 marijuana dispensaries. So I'll leave that one there. And then to Thomas and Oscar's point about the land use situation with the applicant returning for more review about the car wash. You know, we have the situation with COVID, but we do need to do some sort of face-to-face with those residents, which was actually, thank you to Michael's original suggestion. Because if you look out your backyard and you see houses or landscape or brush, we think about looking out there and seeing a car wash. So that's just something to put out there. I'm not opposing or anything. I'm just saying, just put that in your thought. And then I would like, we will be having a meeting, and we'll be working with Sitlali, as Graham suggested. And I'd like to ask Brian, there's going to be a street fair, and there is going to be a holiday parade at this time because they are outdoor events that can be COVID compliant with masks. So I wanted to ask Brian if someone from the committee has given you the NPG. I was contacted about that to find out if I had seen it, and I haven't. So I was wondering if you had that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Graham for Parks report.
You want me to respond on that before you do that?
Yes, please.
Right.
Yes.
Go ahead, Brian. You had your hand up, and then before Graham, then let's go to Michael too.
Yeah, let me be appropriate here. Yes, I do know something about the street fair and the parade. However, based on my position on both the community foundation and this board, I am precluded from discussing it. And I also may not present it. So I can't even send it to you. So if you get it, it's going to come from somebody else. And as a citizen, not speaking for the community or this board, I can tell you, I believe there's going to be a street fair, and I believe there's going to be a parade. And I wish I could tell you more, but.
Well, how about the names of the committee members that are available who can talk to us so we can get the NPG?
So if I can interject, so Lainey Caspi reached out to me the other day regarding those 2 events.
Okay.
Because she wants to put it on the board meeting. And I told her, 1, it was too late for this one. And so 2, they need to send the NPGs to our board email, and then we'll take it from there. So really it's incumbent on them to go through the process. And if they don't go through the process, and they run the risk that they're not going to get the funds. I mean, we can't keep holding their hands. I mean, if they want the money, they've got to go through the process.
Okay, so then we need to follow up with them. Well, they have to send an NPG to.
They can send it to the board general email, and then to Brian's point, he can't be involved, but certainly you and I or someone else can take it from there, and we can review the NPGs and make sure that they're in order.
Okay, great.
If I were you, I would get Michael involved as the chief financial officer. Let him step in for me.
Okay, will do. Michael.
Michael, you had your hand up, and then I'll go to you, Sid.
You know, Karen, you talk about Luz Rivas. Okay, 2 other things that we've asked her to do. She hasn't done one of them, and she voted against us on the other one. And I don't know how many other outreach chairs you know in her area, but it'd be interesting to find out how many neighborhood councils had taken a position on that. And she went against all of them. And then just send her a friendly reminder that the neighborhood councils are watching you, and all these voted against this, and yet you turned your back on us and you went the other way. So she's got to understand that the people that she's kowtowing to in Sacramento aren't the ones that get her elected. We are.
Yes, I actually had, something that was shared with me that I'll be happy to share with you. It is, as I was told by a person that will remain nameless, that we hire them with our votes and we pay them with our taxes. So that's.
Yeah, and then she wants to build a high rise behind your house.
Yeah.
All right, so Alvin, you had, or no, excuse me, Sid, you had your hand up and then I'll come to you, Alvin.
Yeah, thanks. Just a couple issues. The issue on those Senate bills, we discussed it at one of our board meetings where her representative was there, and she said she would get back to me on it, and I never received a message from her. One point, regard to the cannabis, I wasn't aware there's plans for shops in Granada Hills North.
In Granada Hills in general.
City.
Granada Hills.
What about Granada Hills North?
It's just the city of Granada
The entire
Hills. They don't-
city.
There's seven in Granada Hills. That are,
However, if we have one.
Do we have any? That's what I want to know. And where do I get that information?
I'll send you the report, Sid.
Be good. Thank you.
Yeah, currently to Karen's point, there is only one.
Yeah, and if we only have one and it's open and lines aren't out the door, I don't see why anybody would go and open a second one, much less a seventh one.
Well, Department of Cannabis Regulations, they operate differently. That's why I'd like to pass it on to Sid to look into, because they're not following the rules that we all know about. They are able to get things through without going through neighborhood councils, without going through anyone. So we just need to take alternative measures, because one is enough. I'm sure that you all agree. So
totally.
Yeah, I was still a couple points to what Karen said before you go to Alvin. I was unable to link into the bank meeting. That's why I don't know. I couldn't connect. But anyways, I find it rather interesting that the city attorney says he won't investigate any, won't act on any question from an elected body. Only we are elected. We're part of the city, and he is commissioned by the city council to look into the legality of one of the council person's recommendations about voting. He's looking into that and I just find that rather superficial on his part. And I think the statement, he's someone running for mayor, how will be as mayor and how receptive he'll be to neighborhood councils. We do have a recall election coming up. The people do eventually speak if the people are not willing to act appropriately.
Okay, I'm sorry, Sid, but I want to move on to Alvin.
I was just addressing those issues.
Thank you. Alvin?
No, just my comment of something that would also want to be pressed upon Luz Rivas's office is this was a point that was made by our vice president that, the last time that she made an actual appearance was, for her was when she was running for her campaign seeking re-election. So, I think it's just important for it to be pressed upon her that, if you're gonna attend and want a vote of confidence from the stakeholders, to at least make a more frequent appearance than just when the time comes for re-election. So that's just my point.
Thank you, Alvin. I would agree, but then again, unfortunately, they all do the same thing. So they only show up when it's election time. I mean, it's not pinpointing anyone, but all elected officials only show up when they're up for re-election. That's also what I've seen. So, okay. I think that's it. So Graham, we're going to go back to you so that you can tell us about, give us a report, please.
Sure, real quick. I've been working with Mirka on some things in the parks and just some great things that have been done. Just want to update you guys on a quick list. The sprinkler timings on apparently all the parks, definitely saw them in Mulvaney and Bee Canyon have been optimized not to run during the day, not to waste water, to be optimized at night, which I've also noticed walking through there, which some of you may have noticed as well, that they are greener and look better in parts. There's still some parts that they're going to seed and mud parts that the grass has already died, but they're going to reseed and work on that. So that's awesome. The graffiti on the Meadow Lane sign at Bee Canyon Park was removed, if any of you noticed that, and some of the other graffiti around the parks should all have been removed by now. If there's anywhere that you guys see any other graffiti, let me know and I can send that out to them to also remove. Also, the fence repairs around the parks that are broken or missing from some trees fallen, like Bee Canyon Park. There's some in Mulvaney, and in the opposite side over by Balboa over there in Bee Canyon, and some in the other parks. They are on the agenda for them to maintenance to fix and in the job order queue, so that should be done shortly. And then as far as those big wooden signs with the plexiglass, that's very outdated. And there's nothing really in there that they don't keep updated with information. We're working to see how they're going to do this, but there was some suggestions brought up to put map trail route markers or like a outdoor sustainable map instead of the plexiglass, and kind of removing that and making it look nice so people know and can see exactly where they're going with trail markers throughout the parks, especially in Mulvaney, which is really big and there's a lot of trails in there. So that was something that seemed positive and that they were going to look into and bring to the council members' attention to work on. And I'll keep you updated on how that goes. And then some of the dog defecation signs we had discussed, which is just a bunch of words and people don't really follow, and it's become a nuisance. So we've had a lot of stakeholders complain about that, and residents that they were looking to, we were discussing how it would go about being done, but to update those signs and just replace them with something that would be more visual and a very short, like clean up after your dog, and have a picture, just like any other signs you see that people are receptive of, so you don't have to read a whole paragraph and see a city ordinance code on the bottom. The code would still be there. It would just be more visual and easier to understand for people, and also look nicer because they're updated and new. Some of those are probably still from the 80s, when a lot of these developments, the houses, this whole area in Granada Hills North was developed. And then I also brought up a suggestion for a green solution in the parks along with the garbage cans. All there are garbage cans. There's no recycling bins or, blue recycling bins that can attach to those posts that have those garbage cans on them. So that's something that they're also looking into as far as the, whenever Chris comes back to the meetings, or, we can discuss with him with Republican how they would handle that as well. But to proposing putting some recycling next to the garbage cans to be more green in the parks, because I see, I'm guilty of it as well. When you're in the park, there's nowhere to put those. You can't hang on to them when you throw them in the garbage can. So that was something that was brought up as well. And then besides that, a couple areas that, due to increased activity in Mulvaney and other parks from COVID, to see about doing some permitted parking for just the resident areas where it's being clustered and people can't park and have guests that they're in front of their houses or in front of their mailboxes. And that's about it. So a lot of good things are being done. There's a lot of things in the queue, and if anything, agenda items that we're working on need to be brought up before the board for votes or any funding or NPGs or anything like that, I'll let you guys know, and Oscar or Karen, and we can bring it up. But that's the update.
Great.
Thank you, Graham.
It's a lot. Thank you very well. Thank you so much, Graham. Appreciate it.
And if anyone has anything for outreach, let us know. We will have a meeting the third set, well, we actually have to move it, but the third third week of the month, we'll have a meeting, so.
Okay, thank you. Alvin?
I was just gonna say, I can't wait to see the end result of the signage because I can't tell you how many times when I hike O'Melveny, the amount of people that are asking me which way the trails go. So there is a demand for it.
Absolutely.
Progress. Thank you, guys. Okay, let's move on then to item K, Public Safety Committee report. Michael?
Yes. All right, we have a motion because of the RVs that are being parked along Rinaldi. And Oscar gave us a little bit better way to phrase this. Motion to approve CD12 and DOT to place no parking between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. on vehicles over 7 feet high or 22 feet long, except by permit, on the north side of Rinaldi between Balboa and Woodley, and on the south side of Rinaldi between Balboa and Blucher. All right, this would not interfere with residents parking cars, and try to move the people that like to park their RVs and camp on Rinaldi to move out. Any questions?
Thomas?
No questions. I just wanted to second the motion.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's from committee, Thomas, so you don't have to.
But, okay. No, thank
Thank
you.
you, though.
So anyway, thank you, Michael. But yeah, if any of you have driven on Rinaldi from Balboa to Sepulveda, I mean, I take that drive constantly because I go up to the soccer fields on weekends, or actually when I post the agenda at Bee Canyon, that's the way I come back home, take Balboa and go east on Balboa to Haskell. And it was last weekend where I was like, this is just crazy. I mean, the number of RVs that are accumulating and the trash now. So anyway, this is why we put this on the agenda. Any questions? Robert?
Yeah, the only concern I have with that is if you just place them on that street, it's going to push these people into the neighborhoods. And I mean, I'm speaking of, we just had one guy that parked in our neighborhood, and I'm only guessing that the neighbor has rousted him out because he's not there this evening, but he pulled in Sunday morning and stayed until he was there this morning when I left for work. So, you know, when you push them off the major streets, they're just going to go on to the smaller side streets into the neighborhoods.
You know, Robert, it's a good point. However, just like you said, the neighbors rousted them out. When they're getting into, you know, close communities, you know, they don't like it because they get a lot of heat from people. When they're on a major thoroughfare like that, you know, they're only parked in front of one neighbor's house, and it's not a really tight group. So, and if need be, we just keep it moving along. We just put up more signs.
That's it. Just stay on top of it. Any other comments? That is a good point though, Robert, but we can't not do anything, right?
Right. No, I'm not in disagreement with it.
Yeah.
I caught to stopping there.
I agree, and it's going to happen. And to Michael's point, we'll just stay on top of it, and we'll just keep putting more signs where we need to. So, yeah.
So if anybody, you know, buy stock in sign companies, okay? Because we're going to buy
Oh Lord, Brian.
Yeah, I think I should just share with everybody. This issue is getting to be, it's escalating. Let's put it that way. I know of a situation where a homeless person came into a cul-de-sac and set up his little house, so to say. And he became a nuisance to the neighborhood. The neighbors got together and they all chipped in some money and they hired a individual. And the individual went up to the homeless person and gave him 24 hours to get out or else. I won't tell you what the or else was. And by the next morning, he was gone. So the vigilantism is beginning, and we need to be real careful about what's going on.
Well, and that's the scary part too.
Hey,
Very
Brian,
scary.
what did you spend the money on?
Thank God it wasn't me. As you know, I don't live on a cul-de-sac.
Alvin, you have your hand up. Go for it.
You know, I was going to caveat on Brian saying that it was regarding how it's escalating, because I do my occasional walks along Horace and noticed actually a homeless person sleeping out in front of somebody's property, and this was, you know, this was in one of the back streets. So I mean, for me to, I mean, that was the first for me, and in all honesty, I don't think that that's going to be the last.
Nope, it's probably not.
Yeah, we love our cul-de-sac, so I will be one of those vigilantes.
All right.
Look out.
I have a hand
Look out,
raised.
everybody.
I was really careful how I gave that story out, and you blurred that out.
I'm sorry, I've got someone with their hand up, an attendee, Mr. Hales. Unmute yourself, please.
There we go. A member of a cul-de-sac, that be us. We've had that same situation, and I spoke to the neighbors and I asked them, would you mind if I put up some signs, because the city doesn't care? They just looked at me and said, sure, go ahead. So I bought some video surveillance signs and I placed them at roughly 4 feet, 4.5 feet on a tree in the cul-de-sac on 2 different positions, on the front and on the back. Each time somebody comes to pull into that and I'm outside, I always stand there in front of the sign, look at the sign and look at them, and then I turn and walk away. When I look back, the car pulls away. We've not had anybody, big vehicles, small vehicles, people come in and sleeping. They don't do that anymore. For some reason, the video surveillance sign, least expensive, is out there. And the funny thing is it's next to a school, preschool. And the teachers and principal of that school thought, oh, the owner put those signs out and got cameras somewhere. And the whole neighborhood knows I just put them up there, but they now appreciate it. And as a membership of the cul-de-sac, we now have 100% participation. They all make sure, like standing across the street, if somebody pulls to the curb, oh, did you notice that sign? They're video surveillancing these. So it's all part of that unity that you're talking about. The city does not give a rat's tail. And we've called DOT, we've called everybody. And they just took their sweet time to get back to us, but they haven't done anything. But that small investment, I think it was $6 for both signs. And of course, my time, which is $1,000, and punched that into the trees. We haven't had any since. So it's along that same line. We really think that the participation, as it's suggested, more so from the neighbors. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hales. Okay, so time check, it's 9:14, so I would like to close this
Can we vote on the
item off
motion?
from discussion so that we can move forward and take a vote on this item, please. It is 9:15. I'd like to get done by 9:30 if possible. So item K1. Any, what's that?
Would you read the item? I don't have my agenda with me.
Ralph, motion to approve CD 12 DOT to place no parking between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Vehicles over 7 feet high or 22 feet long, except by permit, on the north side of Rinaldi between Balboa and Woodley, and on the south side of Rinaldi between Balboa and Blucher.
Okay.
Okay, so item K1, any opposed, state your name. Okay, I hear none. Any abstentions? I hear none. Therefore, this motion passes by unanimous vote.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to item L, West Valley Neighborhood Alliance Representative Report. Graham, do you have anything for that?
I've been trying to catch up with them. I saw it was added to our calendar the Sunday prior to when I actually saw it. So I've just been trying to connect, but nothing new. And I will hopefully connect this month and go to that meeting, and we'll let you guys know. So
Great,
that's it.
thank you, sir. Small business rep, Brian?
Nothing.
Nothing, thank you, sir. Faith-based representative, Ralph?
No comment. No
comment.
comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Student representative, Sitlali?
I don't have anything either.
All right, thank you. All right, so we are to board member announcements, and I will go around and call your name. Starting with Mr. Allen.
No, not tonight. I think I'm good.
Okay. Alfredo's not here. Chris is not here. Graham.
I'm good. Thanks again. Great meeting, great input, and look forward to the next one.
Thank you, sir. Sid.
Just one comment. I looked up, LA City got $1.35 billion in COVID relief money.
That's a lot of loose change.
That's a lot of, thank you for that, Sid. Michael?
Just when Sid brought that number up, I don't know if any of you know, but if you have 1 million minutes, you have 16 days. If you have 1 billion minutes, you have 31 years. That's how exponential $1 billion is. And also, Robert, I'm really happy. I was looking for a rope because you looked at the beginning of the meeting like you'd fallen into a rock quarry, but I see you've gotten out and you've got, and you're enjoying the sunset. So I was looking for a rope though to help you out.
It's Montezuma's Castle in Arizona. Sorry, just picking backgrounds.
All right, Thomas.
Nothing to report. Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you, sir. Raheem.
No comments.
Thank you, sir. Boy, that's the first time we've heard you all night. All right. Ralph.
A comment. My neighbor's Honda all of a sudden makes a lot of noise, and it appears that somebody they wanted to have his converter. So people are borrowing things in the neighborhood.
Yep, that's getting around. So the catalytic converters. Thank you, Ralph. So just be mindful of where you park. Nathan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was a great meeting in that I learned a lot today. The presentation from Capri Maddox was fantastic, and I appreciate Karen sharing the information regarding the marijuana dispensaries because that's news to me and I'm sure to most of us. So appreciate the sharing of the information. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure. Jason.
No comment. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, sir. Sitla. Unmute yourself.
Oh, no, I don't have a comment either.
Nope. Okay. Thank you. Robert.
Yeah, I have nothing useful to add at this time.
Okay. And let's see. Alvin.
Yeah, just real quick, just because, you know, my line of work involves sometimes working with City of LA building and safety. So I meant to bring this up at the last board meeting, but I asked one of the plan checkers I was working with at building and safety if there was any plans to potentially open up with everything relaxing with COVID, and they are still in talks. So for those of you homeowners out there looking to do retrofits, just expect that.
Thank you. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing too. It's taking a while to get permits. Karen, I'll come to you in a minute, Michael.
Oh, I just want to say it's great to see everyone. Great meeting. Shout out to my the outreach committee. And I would like to adjourn this in with a happy birthday to Miss Sitlali Manzo.
We still have, we can't adjourn yet. We still have a few things. But happy birthday, Sitlali. Yes.
No, I know
Happy
that.
birthday.
That's, I'm twisting things here to make a happy birthday.
Happy.
Michael?
Thank you.
Yeah, just if anybody has anything for public safety, any ideas, what we can do for you, please let me know.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And lastly, myself, yes, Karen, I would like to emphasize or reiterate, Sitlali, happy birthday. It's on a Friday, right? So it's going to be a long, happy birthday weekend. Good for you. Good for you. Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
All right. And with that, I don't have anything else. I think we've gone through the entire agenda. Look, 9:20, excellent. So again, thank you everybody for all your time and everything that you do for our great community, because without you guys, we would not have this great community. So thank you. Have a great evening. All right.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Night.